What's up, YouTube? I hope you all are doing well. Good evening. It is me again, Anson. I am here. If you guys did not join the stream Monday night, I am here to fix a mistake, to wrong what has been, to right what has been wrong. I am here to unbox the Canon 50mm f3.5 macro. I don't know why I've had such a hard time saying that. Today, my daughter is very vocal, so I'm going to go ahead and give the disclaimer that if you're joining the stream, you may hear my daughter. That is a normal thing on my streams. She's just way more vocal tonight. So, there's a couple things we're going to do. I actually chose to stream tonight, and it's been a day. I'll be honest, it's been a day. I had debated on streaming tonight because it's going to be a little bit harder to stream tomorrow night, which I've been doing Thursdays pretty regularly. And Friday, honestly, I need a day off. But today was a crazy day. We found out that my daughter's daycare has a couple cases of COVID. Luckily, not anybody that's near my daughter, and so we don't have to worry about quarantining or anything like that. But we were trying to figure out, what that means. So we're pulling her back out of daycare after we just put her back in like 2 weeks ago. So that's a fun time. So I didn't have time to jump on here to market this really well. I appreciate anybody that's joining. But basically what I want to do with this is unbox the 50mm and then maybe hang out for a bit. And this is actually something I want to do. I've debated on doing a series of a certain budget, and basically say like, cool, I have $20, $40, $50. Let's buy a lens. And probably more specific, like a vintage lens, because that's going to be a lot easier to find. And so if you guys are interested in that series, let me know in the live chat, and we'll go from there and definitely make that happen. And so what I'm going to do, I'm not necessarily going to do that tonight. Because I'm not going to do the parameters that I want, because the parameters that I want is basically like shop for a vintage lens with like a fixed low budget. And so I have a little bit of a budget. I do want to shop around a little bit. I may not actually buy anything, but I want to kind of talk to you guys also about like my process. That was something that came up in another stream, where, how do you know which vintage lens to buy and things like that. So I kind of want to talk about my process, what goes into it. There's obviously some there's not obviously, but there's some steps that happen before we even get to where I'm going to start. Because basically I'm just going to go straight to eBay. But first, I do want to unbox this. If you missed Monday's stream, I did unbox the 70-210 f4. Both of them are Canon FD lenses. If you have missed any of my streams, I'm a huge fan of FD lenses. And so that is what I'm into right now. Trying to actually outfit like my cine lineup to be just all vintage Canon FD lenses. So with that being said, I felt like this one it needed its own video, because I just gotta tell you, this is dope. It's like the original packaging. And so I'm pretty pumped on this. Now, disclaimer, I did actually have to do some testing on this lens, because it came in like a thin plastic shipping bag. And I was just like, who puts lenses in a bag? And so I got this yesterday. And so I took it out a little bit, put everything back in how it's supposed to be, so there's a true unboxing. But put everything back in, but I did a little bit of testing. Thankfully, everything works out. So that being said, Yes. Is it Merle Dixon? Yes, I'm excited too. So let's get into this thing. So I will say I'm always skeptical on buying vintage lenses from estate sales or like antique shops. Not from the fact they don't know what they're looking for, but from the fact that sometimes they're not photography, videography people, so they don't know what is wrong with the lens. There was actually one that I was shopping for. I'm streaming while hockey is on. Oh man, Mark, I'm sorry. Go watch hockey, man. Get out of here. Just put it on the phone and just like watch on the side. But anyways, I'm always skeptical of buying from antique shops or non-photo people because they don't necessarily know what's wrong. What I was saying is there was actually another Canon FD f3.5 that I was looking at, and I asked the guy, I was like, hey, what's the condition of the glass? Like, is there any fungus? Because it was just basically like, condition is used. And I'm like, that's nothing. That gives me nothing. This person did that too, but they had a little bit of clarification. I was able to ask them, hey, is there fungus? And they said no. So, spoiler, I'm not into fungus. It ruins your sensor sometimes, most all the time. So, that being said, unboxing. All right, so open this up. But so all that to say, I do actually like sometimes buying from antique shops because they'll have a lot of these things in like pristine condition as far as like the original packaging and some other things, which I don't want to spoil the surprise. So open it up. Now, this is the only redeeming factor that I have for the fact that it was shipped in a bag is the fact that it does have some like custom styrofoam for the lens. We're going to get to that in a minute. I don't normally get into manuals, but when you're talking about a vintage lens, I keep on like reaching over. I should probably like do this down here. When you're talking about a vintage lens, some of these manuals are kind of cool because you can kind of see like what they looked like back in the day. One that is really cool is my, let me see if I can get out of the way. Yeah, my vintage film lens back here. I'm like watching my monitor and mirror. There we go. My vintage film lens back here. It actually has the original like case and monitor. Not case and monitor. Case and manual. And it's really funny to just like see how the manuals were printed and just kind of get the whole vibe of it. So I got a couple of manuals in here. You've got some just like general information about I think there's a couple of additional manuals because this comes with not only the lens, but the extension tube for it, which is dope. So I'll give you a little preview. So you got I think this is the manual for the extension tube. This is like proof of ownership or like some type of it's a certification. I don't know why I say proof of ownership. Certification. So that's dope. And again, if this came in like a brand new lens, I'd be like, get out of here. But the fact that it's coming in like a vintage lens is pretty cool. Then you have the manual for the lens itself. If I can unfold it properly. I'm probably like breaking all the antique rules I should be. I'm not like treating it nicely or with gloves. So you get the manual for the lens. It might even be, no, yeah, it's just the lens. And then some servicing guides. So that's what you have manual wise. Okay, so then you have this, right? All right, so let's open this up. Now, I'm not acting like, because I have opened it to test it. So, because again, it came in a bag. I wanted to make sure it worked. But I will say when I opened it the first time, I was like, damn, these are in good condition. And if my mother was watching, I'm sorry I said damn. But these are in good condition. So you have the 53.5 macro, and then you have the extension tube. And so what's supposed to happen is and trust me, like eventually, I've said this before, but the lenses that I own, I like take forever to review because I think I have to like test it for like ages before I bring it to you guys. Like the Rokinon 12mm is at least 6 or 7 years old at this point, and I still haven't talked about it. But You have the lens itself. I got scared there. I dropped. Which one thing I appreciate is the 70 to 210 didn't come with caps. This one come with caps, and FD caps just like have an aesthetic that I am into. I've said this before. I used to like do a slight cine mod on my lenses, and I actually got really sad. Let me see if I can get enough light here. I got really sad when oh yeah, you can get it right there. When I had to use like a 67 millimeter cap, because that means I couldn't use this cap because they're just, the aesthetic is dope. Merle, you said, so I shoot with a GH5 with 2 different FD adapters, one with a 7.5 reducer with the macro. I mean, I've tested the macro on the Micro Four Thirds with just a passive adapter. I'm not sure how it's going to work with like a focal reducer. I have seen some other lenses react poorly to the focal reducers, so I can't say that it'll work 100%. But I do know with a passive adapter, like I said, I did some initial test and it seemed to work fine. I use a Photo Diox, just passive adapter on all of my FD lenses. But that being said, all right, so both these have caps. Now, one thing I said on Monday's stream is silly Anson. So the route that I was mentioning is like you have to adjust a pin on the bottom here to get the aperture to actually move. But my freaking adapter does it. Like as soon as you, so I meant to bring it over here, but basically the adapter has an open and lock position. And when you put it on the open position, I always recommend, so if you're buying FD lenses, sorry, I'm paying attention to the chat too, but if you're buying FD lenses, no problem, Merle, awesome, thank you. But, and Merle can speak to this too, if you have FD and Photo Diox, if you're buying FD lenses, what you need to do is, when you're putting the lens on the adapter, make sure, and this might go without saying, so, forgive me if this is like noob status over here. I don't think it is, but still. But if you mount the lens to the adapter, make sure the adapter's in the open position, because what you'll need to do is when you mount it on the adapter and lock it on, you'll then switch it over to the lock position, and that will actually override the FD's kind of aperture system. So now when you have it in that lock position, you kind of roll between the different apertures, and it will adjust as you turn. Technically, the Photo Diox, if you just simply toggle between, I think it's actually, it's been a while since I've tried it. I think because there's an auto mode on FD aperture. If you put it in the auto mode, I think you can actually adjust the aperture on the open and lock mechanism on the adapter itself, which could be useful if you need a seamless transition of exposure. So you might think about that too, but I don't like multiple moving parts there. So I'm just like, let me lock it in and just adjust the aperture on the lens itself. Now, Merle, if you're still here, do you declick your aperture rings, or do you use it primarily for photography? If you can let me know in the chat, because I am super interested in trying to get my FD lenses basically clickless aperture. So okay, I put this down. I don't know why I put it down. So the other thing I appreciate is, look at this like freaking barrel right here. And it might just because of the macro capability. I can't even show you. But it's so deep. Like, it's funny because like the Helios, it reminds me of the Helios, how the Helios has it deep, but like this is such like a deep indentation here. And so pretty dope. Obviously you have your focusing rings. I need to stop watching myself in my monitor. But you have your focusing rings, switch hands. I'm used to doing this when I can like edit me like doing stupid things out, not live. So anyways, aperture ring or focusing ring. So it has a good travel. So very good there. But basically you have the macro lens, but what gives it that true one-to-one macro capability is this freaking extension tube. And so you slap this on and you'll get one-to-one macro. And so now here's the tricky part for this. And so this is one of those things that I'm actually kind of glad I tested it out first, is so if you're familiar with FD lenses, there's a couple different versions. There is a locking mount, and then there's like the normal, like the one I have here is not a locking mount necessarily. There is something that's weird, like most lenses will detach from the mount on the camera side of things. With FD, it actually is on the lens itself, so it'll detach that way. But this is not one of the locking mounts. However, you'll see that on older FD lenses having the locking mount. But the extension tube is the locking mount. And so like literally, if I'm mounting, so you would mount this to the adapter. So you'd have to place it onto the adapter, get it like good and snug on there, and then lock it into position. If I can, no, hang on. I'm not going to break this. It might need to be mounted. But basically, yes, you need to lock it in position. So I'm not used to that, which if you have the, I think it's the SSC 50mm f1.8, the FD lens from Canon, that has a locking mount. And so I don't have that one, so I'm not used to it. But that was a very interesting thing. But I am pumped. There is actually a couple of like new nest for some bees outside, and I'm like, let me get some macro shots. And so I'm pretty pumped on these. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about both of them. I'm really excited about the 70-210. I'm really excited about the 50. It sucks because I'm about to go shop for, show you guys my process on shopping for lenses, and my go-to would have been like, oh, cool, let's go get the Canon FD f1.8. And I'm like, I don't need 350mm lenses. I just don't. And specifically 350mm FD lenses. All right, Merle, you had mentioned something. I'm not ignoring you. I was trying to get a point out. So if I have some trouble doing that, lock it, adjust the lens. I have some declick rings on some of the lenses, but bought them anyway. Yeah, bought them that way. Okay. I've got the Helios declicked, of course. Of course, Helios is a must to get declicked. A few Russian lenses declicked on EF breech mount. That's what it is. It is a breech mount. As far as the SSC Canon 51.8. All right, so let me put this cap back on. So that is the 50mm. You see, it's not okay. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think something has to be in here because you can see when I try to lock it onto the cap. I'm try to get, I swear, I'm going to figure out my hand placement. But you can see how it locks. Let's go with the cap. So you'll do the same thing for your camera mount. Obviously, you want control of your camera. But you'll put it in place, fit it in snug, turn it, and it'll lock into place. I actually really like it. It's not bad. I need to try it out for some of the older FD lenses. So I paid a little bit more for this lens, and I'm really glad I did because really, really good condition. And just a couple of the cool things like the manuals and everything. So what do you guys think? Do you guys like the 50? I'm going to definitely be doing, I was going to try to like put some stuff together, and put it in a video, but after the debacle of my last stream, when I tried to, post or like show a video in the stream itself, I decided not to go that route. Now, if you guys do want like examples of that lens on my channel, the last video I did all the B-roll on a Canon 50, Canon 24mm f2.8. So all the B-roll for the rig video that I just did was on a Canon 24mm. a great lens, and I was going for more of like a vintage 80s vibe. And so and I actually put on I purchased a anamorphic filter from Vid Atlantic. And so having the 24, and that's why if you watch that video, and if you haven't, I'll link that up somewhere so you can watch that after this if you're interested in a Blackmagic rig. But basically I had, so if you see like some of the like streaks of light and everything, that's because there was an anamorphic filter on it. But then with that 24mm f2.8, just kind of kept that vintage vibe. And I really liked how that B-roll came out. But that being said, I bought this macro lens to actually get all of my macro shots. Before now, I've used all like macro tubes, like just extension tubes that I would slap on like a, like a standard lens. But that doesn't always work out the way you want it to. And I bought some from, I won't name the company, but I bought some that I just haven't been happy with. And so I was like, you know what? I'll spend like I think I spent like 70. I think they were selling it for 100 and I offered them 75 and they took it. So I think with shipping it was like $85-$90. So it's I paid a little bit more to get a good condition lens. So, but it will be used, if you want examples, it will be used in a lot of my new videos. If you see any close-up shots, it will most likely be that lens. Earlier you're saying, have you tried any vintage Sigma lenses for FD? I haven't. I think back in the day when I was shopping for vintage, or when I was shopping for a 70-200, I looked, it might have been like 70-400. It was when I was big into moon photography, where I basically was like, let's get like a 70-400 that we can get as close as possible to close up on the moon. But that's the only time I've ever looked at it because it just looked cool. So other than that, I usually stick with a lot of good primes. My go-to is usually like Canon FD. I'll look at Vivitar. I've had good experience, obviously, with the Helios line. One that I want to look into is the Mer 9, I think it is, or 1B. I can't remember what the actual code for it is, but I want to see what that one is. So I still have some FDs that I want to get. I want to get the 35 2.8 because I love the 24 2.8. It's by far my favorite lens right now. Just the way that it renders skin tones and just it is beautiful. So I want to get the 35 2.8. But that being said, yeah, if you want examples, I've been like a mile a minute right now, but if you want examples, stay tuned. You'll definitely get some examples of this lens. A 3570. What is it? Sigma 35. So Amar was saying, I absolutely love my 35-70 Sigma. Vivitar is good. 35-70. What aperture is that? Ooh, 2.8. I love it. All right, I'm gonna flip over to eBay. Bro, you were just saying eBay sometimes can be the worst. Yes, I agree. But that's my primary place for vintage lenses. Actually, I'm gonna correct that. My first place that I'll go to for vintage lenses is a local camera shop because a lot of my local camera shops one of my local camera shops have a really good vintage collection, and it's really good to talk to someone that has seen some of these come and go. Unfortunately, like with this lens, they didn't have it in stock, and I'm massively instant gratification. So I needed something like then and there, which is kind of an oxymoron because I had to wait like 7 days for it to come in. But I needed to spend that money on a lens, even if it meant I had to wait another week for it to actually come in. But that being said, so check your camera store. Now, let me flip back here because eBay is annoying me right now. That being said, some of the steps that I take before I start even the process of looking on eBay is I'll do things like I'll Google search like best vintage lens for, I mean, that's how I found the FD lens. It started on a process of, best vintage macro lens or something like that. And there were a couple of options. Now, the route that I went was best vintage lens. I like FD, so I see all these other options for vintage lenses. I see that there's a macro FD, and I'm like, okay, I like FD. Let's look at some reviews for that. Excuse me. And so honestly, I'll look at YouTube a lot. I'll just like go on YouTube and be like, Vivitar 24 millimeter. I can't remember what the aperture for that one is. I think it's 2.8. But and see who's been reviewing that. Now, the danger in that is you limit yourself to not be the first person to be like, this is an amazing vintage lens, because most likely somebody else has done that. Hi, Quippy. How's it going? Quippy, I think is it morning for you? I can't remember what time zone you're in. But yeah. So that is the danger, where if you're looking at vintage lenses and you look at YouTube, so once somebody big on YouTube reviews a lens, most likely you're not going to find it super cheap on eBay. Because they know that people are going to be looking for it, and so they jack up the price. And so if you ever see these videos, and I put some of those out there where it's like macro capability for $70, and you go on eBay and it's $150, and you're just like, what happened? So yeah, it can be a hit or miss. I did that with I told you my daughter is on another level tonight. She knows that she's staying home from daycare tomorrow, and for a while. But that being said, I was excited about the 70 to 210 because I did see some people say, I got this for $40 to $50, and I actually got it for that amount. And so that was really nice. That was like the only time that's ever happened. And so definitely use YouTube as a researching tool, just to kind of see like and that's what sold me on the 50 is I went and saw some videos, and I saw one person's video where I was like, if I can make any images relatively close to this image, I'm sold. And so like that's it. That's where I usually start. So I'll look up, I'll Google best XYZ vintage, and then I'll go on Amazon, or not Amazon, but YouTube, and kind of cross-reference those, see some reviews if they're out there. Now, with this series that I want to do, we may get into some territory where there may not be a ton of reviews out there, because if I'm sitting here saying I want to limit myself to like a $30, $40, $50 budget, then I have to be okay with maybe something that hasn't been reviewed. So we may get into uncharted territory. Oh, awesome. Marlo, thank you for joining, man. So that being said, you have your kind of backlog of information as far as like, okay, we've Google searched, maybe watched some reviews, and then that brings us over to eBay. And this is where I'll start. I may Google search, like, just in general, if some lenses are available. But usually the first place I'll start is eBay. Now, I don't have any particular lens in mind. And so, again, this is kind of the point of the series, and I'll probably have it a little more buttoned up as we continue on this. But right now, we're just going to go for some vintage lenses and see what's out there. And I'll kind of walk you through my process, too. So, okay, so we have the Pentax 50mm f2. No, wait, 35mm f2. What? Oh, 35mm film. Got it. So this one already is like, that looks interesting. I like the look of that. It's another 50. I don't really want another 50. But I'm going to use this as the first example. So some things that go into the decision of me buying a specific vintage lens. One is, do I already own a mount for it? Do I already own an adapter for it? Because while, like, okay, this is $65. If I have to buy another $20 adapter, that's $80. And, While it's not a ton of money, I can probably save some if I can find a vintage lens that does what I need it to do for a mount that I already have. So like M42 mount, I already have that, I think. Yes, I have a Helios. So M40, well, technically for my Helios, I have a M42 to EF and then an EF to micro four thirds. I really need to get a straight up M42 to micro four thirds. So we have the Super Tac. Ooh. Again, a 50 millimeter. But the Super Tacamars are also really good. So usually the brands that I'll look for, or like the type that I'll look for, is Super Tacamar, Canon FD. I said it before, like Vivitar, possibly Sigma. I don't think I've ever bought a Sigma vintage lens, so I need to go that route and try that out. And then some of the like Russian vintage lenses. Some of like the Zeiss knockoffs and stuff like that. So Helios lineup, stuff like that. So Super Tacamar. But what I like about this, $65. Let me go into this and I'll kind of talk about like what I'm looking for when I'm actually looking at the lens. Like this already scares me. Oof. Now this is maybe some like dirt and dust, which potentially can be cleaned off. The big issue is obviously if like some of that's inside the lens, but sometimes obviously like specks of dust and stuff like that may not affect your image. What is more crucial for me? Yes, I do want to look at like overall condition. Yeah, this one is. It looks like it's not in good shape. Either that, or they just did something real weird when they were preparing to take the picture of this lens. So yeah, this one I'm gonna go with condition alone is a little rough. But that being said, you could potentially save some money getting a slightly used, aka overly used lens in this scenario. You could save some money doing that. As long as the optics are good, you should be fine. It just may not be like super pretty, like this one. This one's gorgeous. It's my new friend. So yeah, it just may not be, and honestly, that's how you're going to get probably some of these more expensive vintage lenses for a little bit cheaper. Now I'll be honest. Sometimes vintage lenses are not cheap. We always hear people be like, "Oh, they're cheap alternatives to what's new," and that's true. But don't confuse that with they're always cheap. There are some lenses that are vintage lenses that are more than any of the lenses that I've bought before. So don't always think that like they're just going to be like $20 to $50. That's not the case. I mean, I just mentioned the 35 f2.8. I think the last time I looked, it's like $150, $175. And that's definitely not cheap. So don't be confused with the fact that like while people are saying vintage lenses are a cheap alternative to what is out today, that, like I said, that's true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to spend some money buying them. So it's relative. So all right, so going back to, nope, that's the intro. I apologize if you're seeing the intro right now. So that being said, all right, so we have the lens. Now, okay, so if the lens is in meh condition, one thing I'll look at is the condition of the glass. So, okay, cosmetic condition is good. Also, that's relative. Make sure you read into the details of what is good. So, like, okay, for example, product grading system. Good is like middle of the road. You have excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. So make sure you understand, like, even though this is one thing that like gets on my nerves is, and I was talking about somebody today on one of my YouTube videos, in the comment section, basically like there's all these buzzwords so people can click on it, and I get it. Like it's a SEO thing. Like I do it all the time because, otherwise you're not getting views or you're not getting, people to click on your product. But if you read it at just like condition is good or condition is excellent, and you don't read like what is the actual physical condition, you can get in some trouble. I've seen some dealers say like, this lens is in near mint condition, but there's fungus in the glass. And I'm like, that's not near mint condition. I can't buy this lens. I don't want to, have unnecessary moisture on my sensor. So GTFO, bruh. The Zuko 51. Quippy, don't make me buy another 50, man. It's a beautiful little lens and renders really nice glow. All right, so I'm going to actually read this out. I need to get better about reading out the chats. So Quippy was saying, have you tried the Zuko? I guess that's how you pronounce that. 51.4. It's a beautiful little lens, and it renders really nice, glowy portraits wide open. I might have to look this up. You know what? Let's look this up. God, I swear, Quippy, if you make me buy another 50, I won't be pissed. All right, Zuko, 51.4. Oh, there we go. The Olympus Zuko 51.4. Working, bargain, read. I love that. It's working. It's a bargain. Let's read about it. It's probably not functional. Let's click on, you know what? I'll click on it. Beautiful mint cosmetics, fully tested and checked. Okay, that actually doesn't sound too bad. This has to go up in front because too many people not read the listing. I do not accept okay. I mean, oh man. This is where I could probably click off. I'm like, I love that people put time into these, but if you don't catch me in like a heavy haze, okay, hang on. I have found at least 80% of these lenses, okay, he's talking about other lenses, have either dust, haze, heavy haze, if there's a real image killer, black specs, so make sure you pay over. He's just kind of like hyping. Okay. Here's why I'm not going to buy this lens, Quippy. I have two 50 millimeters right now, and I'm not trying to spend $100 on another 50. I love it. It looks cool. Let me see. Is there any... Quippy, do you have a review for that? Mine's the silver with the thread. It looks... Hang on. Let me see if we can find this. Silver, I'm assuming you said you were meaning thread there. Are we talking about this one? Like, ooh. Is this the same one? It is. Ooh, I like that. Oh, come on, man. 100. You know what's a bad sign? When freaking eBay is like, hey, no interest if you spend over $99 when you're buying a vintage lens. It's not a good sign. This goes back to vintage lenses aren't cheap. They're cheap in comparison, but they're not cheap. For my headshots stuff on my video. Ooh. Okay. This may have to go into... This is going into the catalog of things to try out. I may come back to this one. I cannot justify buying another 50 right now, but because I already have the 51.4 from Canon, and then now the 53.5 macro. I have to come back to this. Okay, we're gonna open up a new tab. Oh, by the way, this is not a cheap plug. I'm not sponsored. But Iron Glass, if you're into cinematography, if you rig out your cameras and you also love vintage lenses, check out Iron Glass. They do some sweet housing on some popular vintage lenses like the Helios, like the Murs. So check them out. They put out one that is beautiful. I'm not much of like a white aesthetic person. Like I don't like a lot of like wearing a lot of white or having white in the background. I'm very like, dark, moody, Batman, just everything black. That's my aesthetic. But this is not it. They have a Stormtrooper version of the Helios housing. You know what? We're just going to go on Instagram. This is what happens when Anson goes off on a tangent. Instagram. Let me make sure I spelled that right. .com. Okay. I have to log in, don't I? Not going to do it. All right, let's do Iron Glass Stormtrooper. That's not happening. That's looking at all of... All right, we're just going to go back to Iron Glass. Let's see if I can find the Stormtrooper here. I'm not trying to show you guys my login or deal with OBS and try to like flip things around. Let's see here. Let's search. Why is it not on the homepage? I feel like it was on the home. You know what? They have Instagram right here. Let's do that. Okay. Yes. Oh. It moves me. Like this lens is... Oh, come on, man. All right. Well, you get to see like the over here on the right, because I can't click on it unless I'm logged in. This is their freaking Stormtrooper. Oh, it's just so pretty. So pretty. And again, that's not my aesthetic, but I will gladly make that my aesthetic because of how beautiful that thing is. It's under rehouse lenses for... Mark, do you frequent Iron Glass's website? You know exactly which one it is. All right. You know what? All right. Let's see. It's under rehouse lenses. Oh, yeah. Okay. Got it. He said fourth from the bottom. There we go. Mark, I love that you're here. Look at this lens. And my daughter is currently like banging against the door, the wall. Again, if you're new to the stream, my office, next room over, my daughter, she sometimes likes to go to bed, sometimes she doesn't, so there is that. Mark frequents Iron Glass more than I do. I sometimes believe it. Dude, they put out I'm going to get back to shopping for vintage, but they put out that video that was on Instagram was a video of an entire set of lenses with this white version. And I literally was about to be like, take my freaking credit card. And my daughter's singing Frozen right now. That's for you all. She's a performer. So beautiful lenses. If you are into vintage lenses, but you want a new housing, check out Iron Glass. And I think there's some other places that will rehouse them, but these guys are doing just beautiful work. Beautiful work. All right. So we saw the Zuko. If you guys are in the chat, if you're here to talk about vintage lenses, what we're doing right now, I've already unboxed the 50mm f3.5 macro. Right now we're just doing some live shopping of some vintage lenses. We may find something. We're just kind of like shopping and chilling. We had a crazy day and I need some retail therapy. So, and my daughter apparently also needs to get out her vocal cords, or I don't know, that sounded weird. She just needs to sing Frozen. So if you guys have some other lenses, let me know in the chat, because honestly, like I pretty much have bought all the vintage lenses I'm looking for lately, other than trying to convince myself not to buy the Canon FD 35mm. F2. Ooh, the F2 might even be worse. Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. $100, that's not bad. Oh God, we may have to buy this today. Okay, let's look. Let's just look. It can't hurt to look, right? All right, so we've got... We'll get into this in a minute. So I mentioned this a couple minutes ago. about people using buzzwords like mint or excellent. I've had places on eBay that they're like, I just realized that like I'm super close to the camera. I'm probably really out of focus. But I've had places on eBay, they're like mint, new, brand new. And I go look at the description and they're like I said before, they're like, yeah, fungus. I did say that before, but fungus on the glass. And I'm like, come on, bro. Now that I say all that, I realize I did say it before. I didn't think I finished my thought. I need a macro badly, actually. I have really bad shape. f3.5 with converter EF1, which I use for my channel. It's a wonder it still gets the shots. Okay, I'm going to actually read this out loud. I'm like reading it. Quippy said, I need a macro badly, actually. I have a really bad shape, 52.5 with a converter EF1, which I use for my channel. It's a wonder it still gets good shots. Quippy, I'm just going to say $100, man. I'm going to, like, this is not in there that securely. These are going to drop out if I'm not careful. I'll let you know. I'll send you some test shots. Save yourself some money. And it'll fit nicely on your new Canon R5 if it hasn't melted. Oh, that burns. Okay, so this is one of the older ones. Oh, this is the 28 millimeter. Get out of here. Oh, I see what I was doing with the 35 millimeter film. Not trying to live that life. I'm trying to get a Canon FD 35. Yes. Excellent. This is my favorite. Excellent. Plus. Let's go read the description. Okay. Outside appearance, there are a few scratches / dirts. It's an interesting way of saying that. No big dent damage at all, in very good condition. Optics, there are a few dust particle inside the lens. No scratches, no fungus, no haze or separation. It looks totally clean. Aperture blade is clean. Also, you do want to look for ones. I think you look for ones that don't have oil. But yeah, you want to make sure that's in good condition too. Okay, I may actually buy a lens. I'm not going to do it because I'd have to go to like my PayPal. You'll see all that information. I will do it once the stream ends, but this may be the one I go with. So you have a 35 millimeter f2.8. I've already said on a number of occasions I love my 24 millimeter f2.8. I have a 50 millimeter f1.4. This would be like right in the middle. Okay, this may be the one I go with. So everything looks good. Bronx DHL, North America. Okay, what's the shipping? Is it 18? Is it like 150? Somewhere around there? Yeah, around 150. Do I want to spend 150 on a vintage lens right now? I think I do. Maybe I'll make an offer. See what happens. Okay, let's look at the pictures. I mean, it doesn't look like any different than any other FD lens. I may have to buy this. Okay, well, that may be happening. I may be buying this. I'll keep you guys updated. So that is a thing. Let's go back to eBay. I've got to keep that tab open so I can know where to go when I inevitably come back and purchase that thing. All right, so we've got a 35 millimeter FD. So again, what's up, man? What's up? Yeah, I mean, so going back to the description here, this is like a perfect, not necessarily a perfect scenario, but like a near perfect scenario. You have a few scratches, a little bit of, just like a little bit of bang up, no haze, no scratches on the optics. And this is why I like, I feel like this is a person that actually sells lenses, because again, I said this at the beginning, when you buy from people that don't know camera gear or anything like that, you sometimes don't get this detailed description. Let's see the rating of Oh, I always look on my computer or my phone. I always forget that the ratings are up here at the top. Yes, decent rating. Dang it, I might be buying a lens. So yes, Quippy, you were saying that you might see a wider aperture than f2 f1.4 like f2 f1.4. Yes, but that's also where you're also spending a little bit more than I feel comfortable with buying a vintage lens, because trust me, there is definitely a whole like section of vintage FDs that are like f1.4 and L series glass, and I am still coming to the fact of like, I love the image that some of these produce. I swear to God, man, if you buy this lens before me, we're gonna fight. I'm kidding. But even though I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I genuinely will pick FD lenses over some of my clinically sharp modern lenses. And I think I'm just now getting to the point where I feel comfortable spending multiple $100s on a Canon FD lens. Before now, I wouldn't have, because to me, like, you have to like go in it knowing it's not a perfect lens other than the 24. The 24-2.8 is a perfect lens. And if anybody says anything different, we will fight. But you have to understand, like, they're not perfect lenses. And I think what opened up the conversation around vintage lenses in general was having people talk about like SLR Magic lenses and Rokinon lenses, probably more so SLR Magic, but that they're not clinically perfect, that they do have some imperfections, and that gives character to those lenses. And I'm like, if I want character on a lens, why wouldn't I just go buy a vintage lens that, yes, I may still, if I buy an L series lens, like spend a little bit more, but in the majority, I'm not. Now, obviously, there's a benefit of if I buy a new SLR Magic, I get a warranty, I get servicing and all of that, and I don't have to worry about, okay, did somebody lie that there was fungus on the glass? Is there separation? If I go to declick the aperture, is a screw going to get stripped? Which is why I don't try to declick my aperture on my vintage lenses anymore. It's just, there are things that come along with vintage, but for me, just cost to what you get, there's no question in it. You ever try, so Newfound Mass was saying, you ever try Minolta MD? I haven't tried the MD. I have one of the, I can't remember which mount it's for now. It's literally back here. It's actually the one that hangs up on my shelf. It's I think we talked about this before, but it's the 75 to 300. It's a variable aperture. It's not a set aperture. It's not like a f4 or anything like that. But I liked it, but I haven't tried any primes. I haven't tried any Minolta primes or anything that has like a super sharp, fast lens. I needed something that was cheap that would get me close to the moon, and that one did. Quippy was saying, I think these vintage lenses really suits mirrorless. Yes, they do, because you can really nail focus with them, unlike when using the DSLRs, in my opinion. Yes. Honestly, I think if mirrorless wasn't so big right now, the move to vintage lenses wouldn't be as big as it is. Also, there are a lot of, if we're talking about like cinematography and filmmaking, there's a lot of filmmakers and cinematographers that will go with vintage lenses because they get more of a film look over a digital look. And so that's one big thing. There's a big market for that in the film industry. And also just with, in general, like, indie filmmakers. So look at the the Rocore, 35mm 1.8. All right, let's look at this one. You got me. All right, so we've got the Rocore 35mm f1.8. Let's do it. What time is it? Okay, we're coming up. 35mm f1.8. 35 millimeter. Ooh. What's happening with that? Adapted to EF, then use the speed booster. See, I would adapt. Can you adapt it to Nikon F? Because I do not have a speed booster for EF. I have a Nikon speed booster. I'm that weird guy because I wanted to save some money. Okay, I see what they're doing. Ooh, that's a pretty lens. Oh man, yeah, this may have to happen. Oh, that is a beautiful lens. I love the. Let me just keep that. Can you? Oh, that is gorgeous. Gorgeous. What is that? f1.8? Okay. f1.8 or an f2.8 from Canon. That's tough. I mean, f1.8 great for like getting a little bit more separation. But I do love my FD lenses. I have things to think about. Okay, I'm going to keep this tab open too. We're just going to do that. And play some like paper, scissors, rock for which one I get there. There are cheaper dummy adapters too. Oh, yeah. If it converts to Nikon, I'm going to have to do that just for the speed booster aspect. I really need to get an FD. I think I do not want to even say this because if I say the name Metabones, I'm just going to spend money just saying their name. But I think Metabones makes an FD to Micro Four Thirds speed booster. That really is tempting. So, yeah, so I have a couple things to think about. I really should have set a cap on how much I was going to spend on the shopping spree, but I did not. So instead of doing like a $20 like cheapo, 8mm film lens, I'm looking at like a couple $100 or $1,000 if I want that. Yeah, that's definitely what I want. I want 2 Helios 442. That's what I want in my life. But they do make an EF, and you can put anamorphic on it for $950. Oh, so it can definitely be adapted to Nikon. Okay, we may have to go that route. Okay, I've got some life decisions to make. I'm also trying to look for a new computer, a new iPad, and all these things. But, why not just buy a couple of vintage lenses while I'm at it? I'm into it. Now, let me know if you're watching this after the fact or in the chat. No, not big money. Not at all. My wife is going to kill me if I buy both of these, which is why I have both tabs open. I'm going to make my case and see what happens. But if you're in the chat or watching this after the fact, let me know in the comments below. I want to do a series on just like live shopping like this. Just like my goal and the way that I'm thinking about this is live shopping, buying the lens, testing it out, and maybe periodically doing like a giveaway of that specific lens. I wouldn't do it every time because obviously some of these I really like, but in the event of like, let's say I do get a look at the 51.8 or something like that, I don't need another 50. So, that might be a giveaway scenario. So let me know, comments below, what you guys think. What are some vintage lenses we should check out in the series. I'm going to try to do this maybe once in a while, once maybe I want to do once a month, but let's be real. My YouTube budget is very small. So I don't know if I can swing that. But I do want to make it a somewhat regular thing. Cause I think this is fun. I think this is fun to kind of see the process, shoot the breeze and just kind of chill with each other. So, thank you guys for joining. I'm going to go spend some time with my wife and pray to God my kid goes to bed sometime soon. And so you guys be safe. As always, thank you for joining. Stay safe, be happy. I already said stay safe, so stay safe, be happy. Wash those hands. I'll see you guys here next time. Peace. Thank you guys in the chat.